Hello. We're going to give everyone just a few more minutes to kind of get settled and get in here, but I appreciate all of you being here on time. We'll get started in just a few minutes. All right, we'll go ahead and get started if you might be trickling in, but no worries. But good evening. Welcome to the Ultimate Law School Application Checklist webinar brought to you by Juris Education. I'm thrilled to see so many faces joining us today, eager to embark on this journey towards prestigious legal education. My name is Colton Rothwell. I lead the community engagement team here at Juris Education, and I'll be your moderator. As a company, we're dedicated to empowering pre-law students like yourselves to navigate the complexities of the law school admissions successfully. Before we dive into our agenda, I just want to extend a heartfelt thank you to Stony, Ethan, Michaela, and Asude from Stony Brook Phi Alpha Delta. The dedication and effort in coordinating this event have been instrumental in making things possible today. It's through collaborations like these that we can bring valuable resources and insights to aspiring legal professionals. Today we put together a comprehensive program designed to guide you through every step of the law school application process. We'll begin with introductions, giving you a chance to get to know our presenter. Following those introductions, we'll delve into specific components of the law school application process, application deadlines, building your application, submission topics, and last-minute checks. And then we will open up the floor for a Q&A session. But please join me in welcoming Jessie Wang, a distinguished admissions counselor with Juris Education. Jessie's educational journey is impressive, with a bachelor's degree from Emory University, an MBA from the USC Marshall School of Business, and a JD from the USC Gold School of Law. Leveraging his extensive experience in higher education, Jessie has become a master in mentoring, coaching, and providing nuanced feedback to guide students through the complex college admissions process. His roles have been varied and impactful, including serving as the secretary of the Student Bar Association, an admissions representative, and the DEI president at the USC Gold School of Law. Jessie has a special knack for conducting mock interviews, a skill he generously shared with students at both Emory and USC. Jessie's approach to college admissions is deeply personal. Drawing from his own experiences, he aims to be the mentor he wished he had, emphasizing thorough, constructive feedback and a strategy that is both comprehensive and easy for students to apply. Jessie believes navigating college admissions doesn't have to be daunting. With the right guidance, it's a journey that can be managed effectively. Beyond his professional expertise, Jessie's coaching philosophy centers on the crucial balance between being personable and professional, building strong, personalized relationships with students to drive success in admissions. His efforts have helped numerous students secure places at top institutions like Emory, USC, and University of Michigan. When not guiding students through the admissions landscape, Jessie enjoys cooking, staying active, and indulging in crime podcast. His commitment to community service shines through his volunteer work as a pro bono law clerk at the Los Angeles Center of Law and Justice in their Immigration and Human Trafficking Division. We are thrilled to have Jessie share his insights and strategies with us. His dedication to student success and a holistic approach to admissions counseling makes him a valuable asset to any student navigating the college application process. So, Jessie, I will let you take it away.
Well, thanks, Colton. That's really kind of you. And yeah, I'm excited to provide my insight, and I'm really grateful for jurors to have this platform to even speak to people like the people in the audience today. So I'm excited to get started. So yeah, let's talk about undergraduate transcripts. So obviously, it's incredibly important to uh, have the transcript submitted along with your application. But what people don't really realize, and my apologies, I'm in New York, so it can be loud sometimes. But um, I know from personal experience that it may seem like a very easy concept to just submit the transcript, but it does take time to process. Um, there aren't any required law courses that you need to take. There's no like in pre-med you have all the core requirements for, the STEM related courses, but in law there really isn't. I know a lot of people who majored in political science in undergrad then I'll go on, and there's like a pre-law course that some schools have, but that's sort of like that's not really a necessity. And I would say that from my personal experience and from people I've spoken to in the years that I graduated from and also the years below me, I think there's an increased trend where law schools will look to people who have diverse experiences, not just solely in the humanities, for example, but people who have experience and major in business or even STEM related uh, majors. And I will say that in law school, um, there's some of the professors actually have told me this personally, that it's the people who have the STEM background who actually perform the best in law school, which is counterintuitive, right? Because you think that people in the humanities would do better because law does not have big math or science, but it's because the law is such a rote application of like the rule to a set fact pattern. It's a mechanical kind of skill that you need to use. So especially when you take the law school exams, the finals, which are issue spotters primarily, and in which case you really need to have a solid understanding of the law. It doesn't really matter how flowery or eloquent your language is. It's about getting the rule right, identifying it, and attacking it. And that's a very um, interesting kind of insight that I learned from experience. I didn't major in math or science. I majored in business and Chinese in undergrad. And so that's kind of sort of like a little bit on the humanities side, but I just wanted to emphasize that in case anyone felt that they need to major in something to get into law school, that's really not the case. Um, and the last thing I will add about undergraduate transcripts is get them in. If you're done and you're applying this cycle, get them in as soon as possible because it takes time to process them. I've had issues with that when I applied, and it takes time for LSAC to process them, and if it's too late, you won't be able to submit stuff on time. So get them in early. All right, the admissions tests. I know that there's like a split opinion between LSAT and GRE, and it will vary by school in terms of which schools accept the GRE or which ones are test optional. I think it's like a open question as to whether one is better than the other. I think that the consensus is that if the school states that they'll accept either one, they'll weigh each of them equally, and that's just sort of like what they state, and you have to take their word for it when they state that. I didn't have that option when I applied to law school. I think this is a rather new development, but I really it really depends on how comfortable you feel with either of them, and it depends on the school that you're applying to. So it's standard that either the LSAT or GRE is required, and so when you weigh the two of them, I would kind of look to which one you think matches the way that you learn, or matches the way that you take exams, and tailor it that way. So yeah, that's basically the LSAT and the GRE. Okay, the personal statement. This is sort of like the bread and butter of the application, aside from GPA and your standardized test score. Obviously, those are really important because that's how law schools, manage their rankings and compete with other law schools, and that leads to like increased funding and stuff. So the numbers are really important. But the personal statement is also very important, and especially in this day and age when everyone has, not everyone, but a lot of people have really high scores, right? And so you need to be able to separate yourself from the bunch. And as you can see, these bullet points, these are specific characteristics that your personal statement should include. And I would say it's a little bit difficult to kind of distill how to approach a personal statement in like a 5-minute blurb. But I will say that it's important to draw from obviously from your personal life. I would say the one key thing is to focus on a focal point, right? You never want to make a personal statement into a laundry list, because of your accomplishments or your experiences. And a lot of my clients do that. They like have a personal statement and then like they enumerate basically all the things that they've done. And I'm like, well, isn't this on your resume? Like, this is the personal statement should be a deep dive into a specific moment in your life or a specific experience that you had, whether it's an internship, whether it's something that happened when you were growing up that kind of made you, inspired you to be the person that you are today, and it should ideally align with what kind of what you envision yourself doing from that experience as a future practicing attorney. Well, first as a law student, then as an attorney, right? But you never want to include too many things in a personal statement because that can really clutter the message. It's really hard to manage. And also, the purpose is not to enumerate everything that you've done. It's about giving them a personal view of who you are. The resume is for listing everything. So, um, definitely, Juris is a great resource I wish I had when I was crafting the personal statement. I went to um, I was also a writing center tutor, so I gained a lot of experience coaching admissions essays. But I would say that a resource like Juris is really important, especially for people who are specifically trying to go to law school and want insight from people who've been through that experience. Letters of recommendation. Um, so from my own experience, I know that I went straight. I'm a KJD, so it's like kindergarten JD. I went straight into law school from undergrad, and so all of my letters of recommendations were from professors. But I think if you're not too far removed from undergrad, you can, I would at least have one that's like academic in nature. But I know people that I've mentored who are like, a few years out who only had like their supervisors or their employers provide their letters of recommendation. Make sure though that this person knows you personally. And a lot of the times the strategy you take is you kind of you speak to them and kind of relate to them, remind them, refresh their memory of like what made you stand out in terms of why you were hired or what you did and what kind of project you worked on, and make sure that they know and hit those points, because not like it putting words in their mouth, but just reminding them what you do, because a lot of the times people will just be, oh, can you write me a letter of recommendation, and the person will go like, sure, yeah, and then they'll write something really vague, and then it won't be as compelling. You've got to make sure that the person remembers everything, and they should, because why else would you ask them? So that's sort of the insight on letters of recommendation. The resume. Okay, this is really important because I've seen a lot of resumes that, yeah, like substantively, they've done a lot of great things. They've accomplished a lot. They have a lot of awards, but it looks so messy. You have to, and there's a template that I provide all my clients specifically that I use, but the visual aspect of the resume is so important because it's the first thing people will see is how organized you are, and it tells them how serious you are as not only a law student but as a potential, like a future working professional in any field. You're going to need to have a clean, clear resume. You're going to want the personal information at the top, obviously, and your educational background, but making sure that the margins are in line, the indentation is correct, that you don't have too much white space. Those are really important factors that you may not think about in the beginning because you're thinking, oh, well, I'll just tell them, everything I've done. But it really is about also the visual aspect of it and making sure that you're using, of course, engaging language, action verbs to make sure the tenses are correct, and also when applicable, and if you can, it's always good to add numbers, quantifying things like you increased such and such, even if it's like for a sales gig that you did or as a retail shift that you took on in undergrad at part time. If you increase sales, if you manage customer satisfaction and you sold X amount, or you managed a team of however many people, add numbers because that makes it more compelling. It makes it something more substantive. All right. So, how to build your law school application checklist. Um, yeah, I mean, this is like self-explanatory, but make sure that you know what the prompts are for the essays and that you are writing essays that match them. And I have to learn the hard way because I've had several clients now, and in one of the cases, they we had written a supplemental essay, and then we went back and we checked, and we found out that the prompt was not it did not match what we had thought it was. And I kind of like trusted the student to like go and find the prompt and relay it to me, but when I checked it, it wasn't the right thing, so we had to rewrite it. But the point being is that sometimes schools will have for USC. I didn't have a supplemental essay. I did have an addendum that I wanted to add because my LSAT score changed and it jumped a lot, so I wanted to explain that. But some schools don't have that. I think things are changing now where almost most schools will have a supplemental essay, and a lot of schools will ask for like a diversity statement or a statement about how you would contribute to, um, the cohesiveness or the what makes you unique that you can contribute to the classroom. So making sure that those are the correct things. Obviously, deadlines are important. Letters of recommendation, resume, personal statement, and um, yeah, that's pretty much it. Tips for ensuring everything, proofreading everything, document checklist completion. I can't emphasize this enough. I said this before, but get your transcript in early because so one time when I was applying, not one time, the time I applied for law school, I submitted my transcript really early actually, but Emory has this thing where because I was a business major, right? And so I did 2 years in the College of Arts and Sciences, and then I did 2 years in the business school because you have to apply and you only do business school for 2 years. So I had two separate transcripts for like for the arts and sciences and then for the business school. And I had submitted like months in advance, and I was like, it was still processing and processing and processing. And I called them. Well, I figured, oh, they would figure it out. But then like a few weeks out from the deadline, I called them and I got in touch with someone and they were saying, "Oh, this is really confusing. You need to get, you know, confirmation from the dean of the business school because we don't understand why there's two transcripts and da 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 da." And you know, obviously freaked out because the deadline was approaching and they hadn't processed this transcript, which meant I could not submit the application. So I got in touch with the dean and they wrote a letter and there was like a whole fiasco. So, long story short, get it in early and make sure that if it's pending for too long, make sure you contact them and you know remedy the issue as soon as possible because LSAC, yes, it's cool that you can submit a CAS and a report and everything together, but at the end of the day, like they're managing all of these applicants, and so they're not going to be on top of it unless you kind of advocate for yourself. And that's sort of what this profession is about, right? It's you're about advocacy and doing things to stand up for yourself and for other people and your clients in the future. So make sure that you're on the ball when it comes to getting everything ready, and especially with your transcripts. Um, for the LSAT, I will say that getting a tutor is really important. I personally am not because I scored well the second time. I didn't score well the first time at all. But I jumped a lot because I had a tutor who helped keep me accountable, and made sure that I was, doing the practice tests every day. And, I can be absent-minded sometimes and forget to keep, a good regimen, but having a tutor was really important for that. And making sure that having someone that can really their uh, tailor their teaching to whatever you require, customizing it. Because some people can do really well in the logic game section, which by the way will not be, from my understanding, it's not going to be on the LSAT after later this year, like in August or something. But some other people might be really good at reading comprehension. But if you have a tutor that can really hone in on certain types of questions that might be tricking you or making you second guess yourself and making you score lower. And I think juris is really, really important. Uh, as a resource for LSAT prep. And I know personally some of the LSAT tutors are really, really good in terms of how they approach the tutoring you and customizing that service to you. So make sure that you have a tutor to help you with the LSAT. I would not recommend studying on it on your own. Um, yes. All right.
Yes, well, that was great, Jesse. Thank you for that. I did turn on an option in the chat for attendees to be able to request to ask a question.
Sure.
So, if anybody would like to do that, or feel free to pop your question in the chat. Perfect. I've never pressed the button myself, so I don't know where it's located to help anyone. So, my apologies. Um, but no, this was very insightful, kind of giving, a really wide range and overview of the overall process and everything. So, Kevin just now asked a question that says, what types
Okay.
of internships do you recommend?
What types of internships? Okay, so um honestly, it same. This is like okay, I'll answer Kevin first or Catherine. Basically internships, right? This is the same answer I would give in regards to what major to pick. There is no specific experience that you need. I would say try to get something that's like substantive, like whether it's like marketing. Like I would suggest getting something that's like that would require a college degree. And I know that sounds condescending, but I'm serious. Like it's better to pursue something that you're really interested in, and it doesn't have to be legal related. For example, I did a marketing internship in college because I thought I would pursue that as a career after graduating, but I talked about that in my interviews and also obviously on my resume, and it had really nothing to do with law school, but it was a professional experience that showed that I am someone who can work in a professional environment and be a young professional in corporate America and in the workplace. So I will say this: your application should have a theme, right? It should have a theme as to it, and it should make sense. And that sounds really, really simple, but it's actually really important because when I wrote my application, for example, right, I was like, oh, I have a business background and I also have a Chinese background. So what kind of area of law would tie that to my background and make sense and be believable? And that would be immigration law and business immigration specifically. And that's what I wrote my personal statement about, is how I wanted to become an immigration lawyer because first of all, in business immigration, you need to have an understanding of business. And also, immigration is like an international kind of category. And my Chinese language major really made sense and aligned with that. And so I would say that whatever you choose to pursue, make sure that it aligns with whatever you're studying and aligns with what you want to do after graduating. And make sure that there's a way, and keep it, not like make sure, but just keep in mind whatever experience that you do get, it's something that you can kind of tie to an area of law that you can see yourself pursuing in the future. So if it's marketing, like what about marketing law or corporate law or business law? If it's English or working even as like a teaching fellow, how can that tie to an area of law? Oh, education law, higher education law, or um, science, definitely. That's a huge one. People are always looking for people with a science background. Like patent law is really important. IP, people, who want to work in house for like a giant, you know, drug manufacturer, for example, they need in-house counsel. So things that you can see yourself doing in the future that would require this background or experience, it doesn't matter what it is, as long as you can tie, and you can almost in any scenario tie your experience as whatever internship you're taking to an area of law and weave that into the theme, the overarching theme of your application. We can help you do that and sculpt that for you. But that's what I would say to keep in mind. Um, sorry, I'm gonna scroll back up. Explain the ideal time to start crafting an application. I mean, the sooner the better. Like, You could be a year out. You could just don't do it like right before the deadline. Um, yeah, I would say I finished my application before I even started studying for the LSAT because I just didn't want to. I didn't want to think about it. I just wanted to be done, and I knew that that was something I didn't really need to study for because it's like your personal statements, like just tell me about yourself, and that might be different for people who might be, struggle a little bit more. I struggle more with the LSAT study than I did with the essay writing, right? So it's different for everyone. So if you think you need more time, start earlier. What study materials? I use Kaplan. I didn't like the LSAT Bibles. I thought that they were really hard, and I know people who've used them and thought they were really helpful. I used them, but I didn't. I thought they were really hard and they didn't really fit or match the type of questions that actually appeared on the exam. And I did that the first time, but the Kaplan one, people are like, "Oh, it's easier," but it's like, no, it's more realistic too. I like the Kaplan LSAT, but obviously the LSAT's changing, so whatever I'm going to defer that to whoever you end up with in terms of your juris tutor, if you decide to pursue a tutor with juris, which I highly recommend. They will probably tell you what materials is best. Why do you need to explain your LSAT jump? This is really important because why do you need to explain it? They're g- they're going to ask you. There's like a lot of addendums that's just like, oh, can you explain that? I think part of it is just like there's like a statistic out there that says like, oh, you 90% of the time or the majority of the time you're not going to jump more than 1 or 2 points, so they're going to be curious as to like why you did so much better. I don't know what I can't tell you what they're thinking, but I will say that it's something that is asked about, and it's something that I just discussed. And all you have to do is say if you jumped. I jumped 11 points, so that was a significant amount because I was just drilling these questions every day. I was working every day, and the first time I took it, I was like, not as focused, and I was working part time as well. But the second time I took it, I was just really just hitting the road running, and that was all I said. Basically, I said I just spent more time and I was studying every day. That's all you have to say. It's not really that important, but it's something you have to mention. It's just part of it. Do you think military work experience would be relevant to yeah, absolutely. Include it for sure. That's a good theme to tie into. For example, because JAG, the judge's advocate roles, I get emails about them all the time. I don't have military experience, but that's an important area, and it shows, you know, people in the military or who have that kind of experience. That's a level of rigor that is really respectable. And I would be remiss to say that to not include it, it would you need to include that. And I will say that this one more thing about the theme of your application, right? Don't think that you're tethered to whatever you say in your application. Like, for example, I wrote about immigration law. Yes, I did practice immigration law after graduating, but I didn't have to. It wasn't like they weren't going to be like, oh, well, you wrote about this in your personal statement, so you have to be this kind of lawyer. No, that's not the case. I jumped from immigration law to construction law. Now I'm in medical malpractice law, which has nothing to do with what I wrote about or my background. But it's just something to keep in mind. Like, make sure your theme is believable. Make sure that at least a part of you is like genuine and honest about it as well. But if you're not like totally bound by it, but you still think you can craft a really good essay with this kind of theme, I would say go for it because you're not gonna. No one's gonna check you to say, "Are you sure you're an immigration lawyer now?" Like, that's what you said in your personal statement in 2017. Like, no one's doing that. I'm planning for fall 2025. When should you begin what? Catherine, you asked that earlier. Oh, um, to start crafting an application. Wait, it's 2024 now. You should start like soon. Yeah. I would say start soon. I would start talking to jurists and figuring out how you can get paired up with an admissions coach because that's the next cycle. Isn't that's the next cycle, right? Yeah. Um how relevant is history and political science type courses for being a lawyer? Not relevant. I didn't take any. Um, no, I don't think you should. If you don't like it, don't take it. If you go to take courses that you like, law school is great because it's not like pre-med. You don't have to take chemistry or bio. Although, that would help if you are good at it and you can have a decent GPA. Oh, by the way, uh, different majors. admissions will look at different majors through different lenses, if that makes sense. Because if you're like a chemistry major and you have like a 3.3 GPA, they're gonna be like, you probably think to yourself, oh, that's too low. No, it's actually not, because it's such a rigorous and difficult major, or engineering especially, right? Whereas if you're an English major and you have a 3.9, that's great, it's respectable, it's a really good GPA, but it's also like not the hardest major. So 3.3 in engineering, mechanical engineering, or something really rigorous, and a 3.9, they're going to be like weighing that. They're going to look at all this stuff holistically. So don't feel tethered to take history or political. I've never taken a political science course in my entire undergrad. So don't feel compelled to or forced to. And I know people, the colleges love to do the whole, oh, the pre-law curriculum is like something we really value and like, but I I was never part of any of that, and I still got into I mean, I didn't get into Harvard obviously, but I still got into like, a pretty high ranked school, and I know the people who were like really gung ho about law school and like did the whole pre law thing, and they didn't. And no offense, I just think it's not required. Is my um advice. How long did you study before taking the exam the second time? So I took it in September and then I took it in December. So I would say, but I didn't really start studying until I got my score back. So that would be like October to December. So it's like a 2 month period where I was just like, this is do or die. I gotta clock in and do it. So that was I guess 8 weeks, eight to 9 weeks. Yeah. No, 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 no. Because I took it December, early December, so it last like 6 or 7 weeks. Yeah.
Great. Does anyone have any more questions? I'll give you a few minutes. I will say, as part of our collaboration with Stony Brook's Phi Alpha Delta, we are offering all of you free consultations and profile evaluations. All of our services, we actually look at exactly your goals and your starting points when it comes to our LSAT tutoring, as well as our end-to-end consultation services. Based on your goals, we have a proprietary assessment that we do that will match you to counselors like Jesse or our other great counselors and tutors, just kind of depending on your goals and unique starting points. Also, know that we have a unique promo code for your group. That is going to be SBPAD, so Stony Brook Phi Alpha Delta, so SBPAD. That'll give you 10% off any services on our website as part of our collaboration with your chapter. I know a lot of you will be attending the mock trial competition at Florida International in April. I will be there as well, so I would love to meet some of you in person. Feel free to come up, get some swag, and take lots of pictures and ask any questions. We will also be at the National Phi Alpha Delta Conference in Virginia Halloween weekend, so I hope to see a lot of you there as well. But if any of you need anything from us, we are always available. The QR code on your screen, by the way, is a link to schedule a consultation with us if you want to snag a picture of that, but we'll also send you a video of this webinar afterwards. But if no one has any other questions, Jesse, I appreciate you so much for coming and sharing all of your knowledge and expertise with everybody. And thank you,
Yeah.
Phi Alpha Delta.
Thank you so much. I hope I could have be of some help, and yeah, definitely check us out. I think someone raised their hand. Aaron.
Oh, hey,
Oh, Ethan.
Ethan, yes, I just accepted it.
Oh.
Ethan, are you there? Maybe. No one's ever raised their hand in a webinar before, but I think I hit the right button.
um,
I
no,
don't know.
that's okay.
All right. Well, I love a good awkward moment, but thank you all so much for coming. I appreciate you all. And if y'all need anything, reach out to Ethan and Stony as well. They have my contact info, and we look forward to doing some more of these with you in the future. Bye bye.